Welcome, everyone, and thank you for taking your coffee break with OpenText Portfolio. My name is Jacqueline Proby, and I'm a Senior Solutions Consultant in Portfolio here at OpenText. And in today's episode, I'll be talking with Sunny Sarphare. He's an independent software consultant and a process automation practitioner. Together, we're going to discuss how to architect and design a digital organization through both BPA and RPA process modeling. Sunny will share his knowledge and his hands-on experience working with organizations that are architecting their digital transformation. So welcome, Sunny, and why don't you take a minute to introduce yourself to the audience?
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you very much. Greetings, everybody. My name is Sunny Sarphare, and I've been in this consulting business, coaching clients, transformation engagements for the last 20 plus years. My role has been, I come from a business background. I'm an accountant and an HR practitioner. And my role has been to bring the business folks and the technology folks together on transformation engagement. So, we have the business requirement side and the IT side, and how do they speak the same language so people understand each other. And that's basically, I've gone through several iterations of transformation from SOA to ERPs and now RPA, digital transformations. So over to you, Jackie.
Great. Thanks, Sunny. I'm really excited to explore this topic today. So let's jump in and start with digital transformation. So what is digital transformation and what makes it different from past transformation initiatives?
So, like I said, transformation has always been around. We had the SOA, the ERPs, and we have what is now the digital transformation. Basically, it's a combined combination of cloud technologies coming together, the big data analytics, the AIs, and the RPA tools, and together what they produce, and to throw into that the whole social media collaboration. And that is really what we collectively call the digital transformation. The basic paradigm of transformation has still been the same, except that digital transformation encompasses the entire organization. So you go from the customer engagement side of it to supply chain to finance, HR, and everything else. So unlike the previous transformations, which were basically like, let's say you are doing your finance ERPs or you are doing your supply chain SAP implementation. It was a whole package and it was all defined. Whereas in the world of digital transformation, we have seen like a whole democratization of the digital transformation organization. We call it, quote unquote, the COEs, the Center of Excellence. And that is necessary because of the inherent nature of the digital transformation. So the architecture is basically a framework and the approach that allows the stakeholders, all of the stakeholders to be on the same page, obviously, right?
Right.
And because it transcends different things, it should allow you to basically provide your traceability across the different layers and connect the dots across your strategy to functions to organization and your IT assets.
Right. So if we're going to continue with that, how does digital architecture different? How is it different from traditional enterprise architecture?
So the EA framework that came into being, 20 years ago or even longer than that, they still apply. Those concepts are still, you could be following Zachman, you could be following TOGAF, DODAP, whatever, it is still there. However, the difference is that the architecture now is seen more as an enabler rather than a repository of your artifacts, right? The platform that you choose, the methodology you choose, like I said earlier, has to provide traceability. Traceability is paramount, right? And you have to connect the dots. And that is why you have to see how your strategy is being implemented through your processes and functions, and then how your resources, human as well as technology, how they connect. And this is necessary because like I said, the COE is an overarching organization, uh, and they need everybody needs to be on the same page. So hence, architecture becomes very important. The other part of it is that these players have to have the ability to understand, visualize the impact of automation across the organization, and then if a good architecture will allow you to do what else analysis, do your cycle time analysis, your cost analysis. So that
Mm-hmm.
is important too. And then because the digital transformation generally grows organically. So as a result, you want to have the architecture that allows you to scale. So let's say you go from, if you have 10 bots, yeah, you can afford not to have an architecture. But as you scale from 10 to 20 to 200, that is where you need to see how these bots are, you don't want to be tripping over each other. And that's where architecture becomes very important.
Right. That makes sense. So let's just come back a little bit to the digital transformation side again. So what does it mean about transformation initiatives and robotic process automation? Is that going to fix the broken processes from the top down?
Well, that is the intent of every organization, right? So hence we get into digital transformation. However, like I said, one key difference is that by design, digital transformation is evolutionary. So unlike you are implementing an ERP package and it subsumes everything in that functional area, digital transformation evolves around your functionality. So typically what I've seen is that you stand up an organization, we call it the COE. It is no different from what you would have called a program office. But as that COE matures and the organization matures around this digital transformation, you can see the initiatives scale in complexity as well as breadth. So what you started in one area of an organization would now get into more the enterprise wide, right? So every organization starts with a low hanging fruit. You focus on automating tasks. We have some parameters and we'll capture that and say, okay, this is a good candidate, this is a good candidate. But initially the focus is on how many labor hours can you save, can you eliminate repetitive processes or the error prone processes, the fat fingering that people do, can you eliminate that? And that is usually the first focus. But as you scale, then you are looking at an end-to-end process rather than just looking at the task. And that's how you would take it to the next level. So you are looking at the underlying processes. And one thing that I have seen as we scale and as the COE matures, that people understand it is not just the business process, but you need to build the foundation for those business processes. And what I'm alluding to is, and what RPA has not been used thus far, but people are recognizing that RPA can solve the problem of data assembly because
Right.
we have those challenges.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So let's just jump in on and elaborate on data assembly with and RPA, if you
Okay,
could.
so let's examine that in the context of a process. So let's say the invoice processing process, for lack of a better word, and it touches about five different systems. These systems have evolved over a period of time. Now, obviously, they were not designed at the same point in time, so they do not share the same, data dictionary.
Mm-hmm.
On the process side, the people who are participating in the process, the invoice processing, have to beg, borrow, steal data from 10 different sources, bring it together, often do like massaging in Excel spreadsheet, do VLOOKUPs, make sure it is all connected, use that data. And then they had to rinse and repeat this every time, every week they are doing this. What RPA can do is to basically take over that function, what he calls data assembly processes, where they can automatically do what humans are doing every week or sometimes every day, is take a snapshot of data database A, let's say your financial systems, and bring it look at the deltas, what has changed from the last iteration, then take a snapshot of your contracts database and see what has changed, and keep that without really impacting the source systems. Because that is where anytime you have to make a change over there, it takes a long time, right? So
Right.
this process, the data assembly, can basically reduce that and also improve accuracy of it.
Excellent. Yeah, that's so intriguing, and just connect the connections there. So now we kind of talked about, making connections and common data dictionaries. Let's talk a little bit about governance and digital transformation. So you mentioned COE earlier, and the Center of Excellence is definitely at the top of everyone's mind. Let's follow up and just dig into what is the role of governance within digital transformation.
Certainly. So again, we call it the COE, but it is nothing new. It used to be what in the previous iterations of transformation, we used to call them PMOs, program management offices, right? Except that the life cycle of, let's say if you had an ERP implementation, it typically lasts for 2 years. I mean, you're lucky for those 2 years, right? It's basically a long process. Whereas in the world of RP, a digital transformation, because it touches all functions within the organization, as well as, so it also connects, you have to collaborate with your external stakeholders. You have to, be it your customers, your vendors, your regulatory agencies. You have to collaborate with your internal stakeholders across all functions. So that behooves that you have a center of excellence. You call it program office or otherwise. The reason we call it differently is because this whole COE is perpetual. Like I said, RPA, digital transformation being evolutionary, it is then necessary for this COE to continue to exist, because as we go from automating and optimizing tests to processes and build the data assembly processes. And this is just on the RPA side. There are many other dimensions to it. So you want to have all of those stakeholders involved right from the beginning and paying attention to what is going on. So if you have to make decisions about security, you want to have them being participating right then and there to make those decisions, whether you're executing a bot on somebody's laptop or whether you're going to have it on a server, and what are the implications and how do you manage access control. So hence the COE and the governance then becomes very important, because you don't have, typically these engagements are like, they follow agile methodology. So your cycles are like about 10 to 12 weeks each. You don't have the luxury of, hey, we send an email to security and we are going to wait for them. You want their participation right in there. And that really buys in and grows this organization.
Right. And that makes a lot of sense. So, what does the impact of digital transformation mean to the organization? So what does a future organization look like?
That is something which is evolving as the whole world of digital transformation is evolving. And so, until now, people looked at bots, for lack of better words. So there are physical employees, the regular employees as we know them, and you would have these bots, which oftentimes we call them digital employees. So long as there was a tight connection between a end user, Sunny as a invoice processor and the bot performing tasks for Sunny, that was a one-to-one relationship. But as we have scaled the operation, you could have a quote unquote digital employee being executed on a server. Now that once you separate that, then it behooves that you are not looking at a bot just as a technology piece, but it is a basically acts and behaves as an employee. The bot will need to be configured on the ERP side as a role and inherit those privileges, those access privileges, access to data, just as any other physical employee would be. So it is becoming more and more apparent now that we have to treat that future organization chart where you would have the physical employees and the digital employees coexist. And that applies to whether you're scaling the operation, so you need to scale the bots, or you have some process changes. So just as you would teach your physical employees new behavior, new skills, you would have to go back and teach those bots those new skills and new behavior. So it is becoming apparent, and this is still very nascent, as it is still caught up only with organizations who have done who are much more mature in this space. But as more and more organizations get there, you'll realize that everybody will understand the importance of digital employees. And one last point over there is that in organizations, we are very smart on treating the conflict of interest roles, right? So if Sunny has the role to put monies into vendor's account, Sunny cannot have the role of approving those invoices. That distinction, again, will be inherited once we have more and more of these digital employees, because that will also apply to them.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, it's fascinating. Well, with that, Sunny, I thank you for being with us today and for sharing your experiences and expertise for this topic on architecting for robotic process automation. This discussion was so interesting and super insightful, so thank you. Also, to our audience, thank you for listening today. If you have any follow-up questions or would like to talk with one of us, please contact us at igc_sales@opentext.com. Again, thank you to everyone for joining us today, and a special thanks to Sunny for sharing his experiences with architecting for robotic process automation. Have a wonderful day, and we're going to see you at the next coffee break with OpenText Portfolio.
Thank you.
Thank you.